Hi, I'm Kelly from Kelly Jones Jewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these cute little earrings. I've put a list in the description below of everything you'll need to make these, along with links to my Etsy shop, which is www.kellyjonesjewellery.com, and there you'll find all my written tutorials and finished jewellery for sale, as well as there were links to my Facebook and my Instagram on there as well. To make these earrings you'll need 0.8mm square wire, that's 20 gauge, and I've cut 6 lengths at 8 inches, that's 20 centimetres. You need 0.8mm half round wire. You can always use a bit of weaving wire if you haven't got the half round, so that's 20 gauge. And I've cut 2 lengths at 3 inches, that's 7.5 centimetres. You'll need some weaving wire, that's 0.315mm, 28 gauge. And you'll need about 200 centimetres. You need 2 little cabochons. Mine are flat back and very slippery. These are 12mm. You can use 12 or 10 or 15, around that kind of size. I've made some little ear wires. When I'm working with copper, I make mine using gold filled. Tools, I've got, what have I got? Pliers, round nose pliers, wire cutters, nylon pliers. If you don't have nylon pliers, don't worry, these are optional. I've got bail pliers as well, just for bending the little bail over at the top. If you don't have any of these, don't worry about it. You can always just bend it over with your fingers or use something of a similar size. So take 3 of your square wires and your little length of half round wire. And like I said before, if you don't have half round, you can use weaving wire, and you just want to attach these wires together really. So find the centre point, put your thumb in the centre point. We're going to work just to the left of your thumb there. Oh, I can't pick it up today. So with the half round, you have to have the flat side facing the wires. We're just going to wrap around and around those square wires, trying your best to keep the flat side of the wire against those square wires, so you can just see that rounded side, so it looks pretty. Just going to keep wrapping around that. So I've done 5, I'll do 6. Flatten it all down, squash it all together. 6 wraps. And I'm going to cut the wires so they finish at the back, so we can't see the ends. And then squash those down. Make sure that's in the middle. It's Gracie woofing in her sleep, if you can hear her. So with earrings, it's best to do them both at the same time, so you can match them up as you go. So take your other 3 wires, your other 3 square wires, and your other half round, and do exactly the same. So we've got 2 like that. So I've got 2 the same. So take your pliers. I'm gripping half of the wraps, and I'm going to bend those, put a V into those wires. So when you're putting it next to your stone, you've got a gap at the bottom there. So now you want to hold the stone in place and carefully bend the wires around the stone. You don't want the wires to cross over each other too much. And then when the wires reach the top, you want to bend those wires out so you get that shape. So you've got that shape in your wires. So holding your wires at the top, I'm going to separate them just a little bit so that they're not crossing over each other. They're all laying next to each other tidy. Now take your weaving wire and we'll attach with 3 wraps around the back wire. And push that down to sit just below where the wires are all going to touch there. And then you want to wrap around the whole thing. About 5 times. And then we'll wrap 3 times around that back wire. Cut that tail end. Flatten it down. Then we need to reposition the stone. So now we need to fix the stone in place. So I'm going to turn to the back first. We're going to pull that wire forward a bit. This nail varnish isn't going to last 5 minutes against these square wires. So when you've got a little gap there, just going to grab that wire and twist. And just do it on the other side as well. Where it meets the bottom of the stone, grab that back wire and twist. And as I've twisted it, I've held it in place at the top there. So that's just holding it in at the back. At the bottom. And then we need to pull these wires forward at the front there. Right, the nail varnish had to go, so I'm going to grab the wire just at the bottom of the stone there. I'm just going to bend it in a little bit on both sides. I'll try and get it in the same place. And keep the top wire nice and wide so that holds the stone in nicely. So now we're going to separate the wires. We'll have the front 2 wires together at the front there, going straight up. And we'll have these 2 to this side and these 2 to this side for now. Get them out the way. Bring your weaving wire to the front. We're going to weave across these 2 front wires. We'll have 1 wrap around the bottom wire. Then we'll go straight over the top wire. Bring it up between between the 2 wires. We'll go over the top wire, under the bottom wire and around the bottom wire. So we go over the top wire, between the two, around the top wire, under the bottom wire, around the bottom wire, and we keep repeating that. So I've finished with 3 wraps around that top wire. I've repeated that weave for about 2 centimetres and then finished with 3 wraps around that single wire. Take my bail pliers and I'm going to use that one. I'm going to just bend that straight over the pliers. Just kinking it out a bit at the back so that it sits nice when it comes to. And then I'm going to take the weaving wire and wrap it around the whole thing to hold those back wires down, to hold it all down in place. So I'll go around the whole thing a few times. And then go around a single wire a few times to hold it all in place. So now you need to do this to the other one, so we've got 2 the same. So take your other wire and your other stone and catch up, so we've got 2 the same as this. And you need to cut your weaving wire so you can use it on your other piece. So now you should have 2 identical to each other, and we'll just change them a little bit from this point onwards. So I'm going to take these 2 right wires, I'm going to bend them to the front. Now the top one, I'm going to grab that with my nylon pliers. I'm going to twist the pendant, so I'm holding the pliers still and I'm twisting the pendant, and I'm pulling on the pendant a little bit just to give it a little bit of tension. So you're getting a nice twist on that square wire. Twist it as much as you like. So then I'm going to gently put the wires back together and I'm going to pull them across the front of the pendant. And I'm holding them in place with my thumb and I'm going to scoop them both around at the same time to make this shape on the front there. So a tight bend. Then holding them in place at the front, I'm going to bend the wires and carefully push them through the bail. Easier said than done. Trying to keep the shape at the front. These wires are quite tough. Probably easier to do it one at a time. And then I'm going to bend them over once more to secure those wires. cut them so they've got enough length to go around and finish underneath the bail. And I'm just going to bend them around, get them started with round nose pliers, and then I'm just going to bend them around with my normal pliers. So you've got that little shape on the top there. So then these two wires on this side, I'm going to bring those forward, and the bottom one I'm going to grab with my pliers. I'm going to do the same. So holding the pendant, I'm holding the wire with the pliers, I'm going to twist the pendant. I'll try and get about the same kind of tension, try and get the same amount of twists so it looks pretty similar to the other wire. Pull the wires back together. I've put a bend in that one. Now I'm going to pull them across that way. I'm going to bend them around at the same time. So I'm putting that shape into it. So that went that way and this went this way. So on the other one, when we do it in a minute, we'll reverse those, but that's all we're going to reverse really. I'm going to pull those back wires back a little bit out the way. And then this, I'm going to pull these wires right up out the way. Holding this at the front here, I want these two wires to come across the back. Make sure you're happy with the shape on the front. I'm going to cut these wires at the back. And with my round nose pliers, holding the shape still at the front, I'm just going to bend those wires around. Check the shape at the front hasn't moved too much. And then I'm just going to squeeze those wires in place around the side there so it secures them in place. So now we're going to work on these back two wires. I'm just going to bring them down a little bit. So take your nylon pliers, or whatever pliers you want to use. It doesn't matter if you mark these holding it because it's just on the tips. So hold the end of the wire with your pliers, putting a little bit of pressure on the pendant. We're going to turn to put a twist into that square wire. Do the same for the other one. So I've twisted both those back wires. Then we're going to part the wires. and hold in the front and the back, so you're pinching it like this to hold those two wires there. I'm going to take these back wires and bring them around to the front, so I'm bringing them up the sides, just at the top of the stone there. I'm going to bring it across the stone, scoop around, and then holding that there, I'm going to take the wire around to the back and through that gap. So holding it firmly in place at the front. And try and match that on this side as well. So bring the wire over, scoop it around, and then hold in the front, send that wire around to the back and scoop it around, bring it through. Holding it really firmly at the front there. Then you've got to play with your wires until they're how you want them to be. So I'm happy with that shape like that. So now we need to finish off these wires. I'm going to cut them, leaving enough length for them to go around the back and finish behind those side wires. Then I'll use my round nose pliers just to pull them around there on that one. Check the shape. Keep checking the shape at the front, because every time we adjust these wires, it could be pulling the shape out. And then we want to squeeze them tight into place. So when you're happy with the shape, you've tightened up your wires at the bottom. Now we need to go back to the other one and finish this one off to be a reverse version of this. You can always just do this as a pendant. It's quite cute as a little pendant. You could even do a pendant to match the earrings when it's done. You could even do a pendant with a bigger stone and then do the earrings with smaller stones, and then you've got yourself a set. Take your other one. So take your other one, and as we brought this wire across to go up, now we're going to bring this wire across to come up, so it's coming up the other way. So we need these wires nice and straight really, and they're going to go forward to come over the front there. And we want to take this top one, because that's going to be the inner one, grip that with your pliers. We're going to put a twist in that. So I've twisted that one, put my wires back together. Now I'm going to bend them across the front of the, I was going to say pendant, across the front of the earrings, holding it in place there. Put quite a tight bend on that. So I'm just matching it up with the other one, and then holding it there. We're going to bend it around as we did before, finish it off around the top as we did for the other one. So I've done that at the top. Now we're going to take the other two wires bring those to the front, and this time we're going to take the bottom wire and we're going to twist that one. So twist the bottom wire. So I've twisted that wire and I've bent them both over the front. My square wire has twisted a little bit. I'm just going to straighten that up. So then we're going to bend these two, kind of copy the other one, just scoop it around. How big is the scoop? And that one's quite tight. Like that. And I'm going to bend these two back wires out to the back, get them out the way. Check the curve on that scoop again. And then I'm going to send those wires around to the back. As we did for the other one, I'm going to finish those two wires by cutting them short and bending them around the wires on their side. Then I'm going to take these two back wires, bend them down and twist them both. Finished off those two, twisted those two, pinching the top. I'm going to bend those wires out. So they come out across the top of the stone there. And then holding that in place at the back there, bend both those wires around to the front. And then as we did for the other one, I'm just going to finish it off the same. I'm going to bend them both around, loop them around the bottom, keep checking the shapes against the other one, and try and match them up. So I finished my second one to be an opposite of that one. And as always, I forgot to mention we're going to need some jumprings for the top to attach our ear wires. So I've got two little jumprings, two ear wires. These are 8mm outside measurement. Open that up, pop it through there, and we want an ear wire on there too. Whoops. So that's how I'm going to attach my ear wires to that big bail. So I've attached the other one. So the jump rings, I use 1.5mm wire, which is 14 gauge, and one of the rings off the bail pliers. I use the bail pliers to make the ear wires as well. I did explain how I make the ear wires in one of my beginner videos, the ones I'll put a link in the description below for that. So there we have it. I hope you found this tutorial easy to follow. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And when you're sharing work made from my tutorials, or anybody's tutorials really, please don't show images of the back, as it gives the design away. I would prefer people come here and watch the videos here on YouTube. So thanks again to everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.